All right, got my shift lever here. This goes up and this goes down. This is a shift lever. If you didn't know that, you probably should not be tearing this motor apart. Or if you are tearing this motor apart, you shouldn't probably be putting it back together. So, if you're learning though, props to you. Maybe I would suggest having somebody help you put this back together if you did not know that this was a shifter. So this is by your left foot here, and this is what shifts your four-wheeler into different gears. I've got a little bit of a sketchy setup here because our block of wood is like too high or it's too small. It's just not working great. So we might have to make changes mid-video here. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. This is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm gonna do because this motor, I hate to like scratch this cover up on the other side, but that's what I'm gonna do. Get a screwdriver in behind here if you can. What you don't want to do is put too much tension on this case here. This is, again, aluminum case. Damages very, very easily. All right, we got the shifter off there. Again, this is called the shifter. For all those following along, learning something today, this is a foot shifter. Gear shifter, gear selector, gear doohickey. One of those terms, and you will get the right part. My impact driver, right here. I've told you about this many, many times. This is a lifesaver on this old stuff. Put some pressure on it, turn it, don't forget your bit. Go to the next one. Okay, now, 1, 2, 3 is all we have on this side, so not a ton. We'll grab our impact. I'm gonna loosen these up. Once you get them started, you can use like this. It's called an impact. This will take them off a lot quicker than using a screwdriver. So once we get those off of there, take and put some pressure up. Again, grabbing the rubber mallet if we need to. Okay, once we get that cover started there with the rubber mallet, a lot of times you can just take and kind of work it up like this. A lot of times because of that shifter, remember that big word that we used, you will get held up in that area there because dirt and debris can get in there. That's not a sealed up area. And I'm gonna tell you what this rubber cap is here for, right? In a bit, once I get this off of here. Not a great multitasker. Whoa! About sent it flying. Okay, this rubber cap here we can pull off. Sometimes it takes a screwdriver. This is for your clutch adjustment. I want to show you this because, oh my goodness, look at all this dirt. I thought I had this fairly well cleaned up. I didn't. Okay, pull this rubber cap off of here. Do not lose this rubber cap. It is important. Otherwise, you're going to have a very difficult time adjusting this. This is for your clutch adjust. So we've got a 10 millimeter nut there. You can loosen that up. We've got a small Phillips screwdriver. You can turn that in, turn that out. You know what? Why don't I do a separate video on the clutch adjustment on here so I don't bore those that are just wanting to get into this Magneto. I can do a separate one on that. So you want to make sure that that is adjusted properly. I'll just tell you right now, that's where it's at. And again, comment below if you'd like a video done on that. We got all kinds of cobwebs and stuff. These will kind of be free of charge. If anybody wants these, shoot me a message, let me know. We've got our clutch adjust here, which is pretty sophisticated setup here. I like that. That puts the pressure on this rod that goes all the way through, goes to the other side, the clutches, the clutch pack, the assembly there. So to remove those, we've got 2 Phillips there, and this whole assembly will come off there. We've got your shift lever that goes through that port there, and it does not have, which I find very unusual, a seal on here. So pretty easily water can get into this area here. So just be mindful of that. You don't want water sitting in this area here. This area is fine. It's not sealed up. You can see that because we've got like an entire mouse nest. And if you watch my first video on this just gorgeous Badger, you would see exactly the mouse issue that I was talking about. Be careful watching that. You may startle some kids. 14 millimeter bolt right there. That's a nut actually. Go ahead and remove that. Make sure you're hanging on to this because we still have this pesky cam chain that could potentially bind up down in that crankcase, and I'm almost to the area that I've been talking about that could damage your crankcase if you let this cam chain spin and bind up in there. Remove that. That's regular threads. I say that because sometimes, very rarely, those are reverse threads. So not on the Badgers. Those are not ever going to be reverse thread because they're not. But other models sometimes will have a reverse thread on there. Take this washer up out of here. You know what? Forget the washer. We'll leave that washer there. It's being stubborn. Okay, we're going to grab our flywheel puller at this time. And I've got a special puller. I'll put a link below. Make sure you click buy it now. Go ahead and throw a couple extra dollars in there for my bonus for promoting that listing and pointing you to the right direction. Thank you. All right, I'm going to give you 2 different options for clutch pullers. I may forget that I'm doing this and not put a link for 2 different ones because they're both going to do the exact same job. Okay, we've got one that looks like this right here. Beautiful puller. We've got one that looks like this right here. Also another beautiful puller. Either one will work. They're the exact same thing, just a little bit different style. So if you're wanting a specific one, I don't know why you would want one over the other one, except for this is kind of a multi-purpose tool, but most of the time guys don't have this and this. Most of the time it's just this size. This is the most common size, the larger one there. So spin this on here. Now, you're probably going to think I'm a complete ding-dong because I'm spinning this the wrong direction. I'm not actually a complete, well, maybe I am a complete ding-dong, but I did do this right. It's reverse threaded all the way in because, you know, I don't know why, because you actually spin this, and if you don't get this tight enough, it'll actually spin the entire thing out. So it makes 0 sense to me, but that's what it is. These are reverse threaded internal threads on the flywheel, so they call those left-hand threads. So make sure you make note of that. If you buy from somewhere else, which I would not suggest doing, make sure you're getting the right one. I'm just telling you that because lots of people buy the wrong one. They message me and say, oh my goodness, I got the wrong one, what do I do? Hey, click the link below, silly. That's what you do. You got to tighten this up because, like I said, when you take and spin this puller down, that actually puts the pressure on that crankshaft. If you take and spin this direction, and if this is tight fitting at all, it's going to go ahead and spin your puller right off of there. We'll see if it does it here. 17 millimeter for mine. I don't know. Again, if you buy it somewhere else, you figure out which size you need. Take and spin it on there. Just the coolest thing. I don't know. Every time I do this, I'm just blown away at how well this works. So you're taking this bolt, you're running it down, pushes against the crankshaft. What it does, pushes that flywheel off of the crankshaft. Wow, that thing looks mint condition. And then you've got your crankshaft that's here. So your puller, if you look down in there, is pushing right on top of that crankshaft. I think I said that like 3 times. Now, when you're removing this, okay, remember we put it on the reverse way, so what direction do you think you got to loosen it up? Bingo. The other way. So it's like you're tightening it up, but you're actually not. Weird deal. Okay, you've got your washer down in there. Don't forget about that. Fling this across the room and you lose that washer. You want that on there so that this, because you do. All right, we'll set that flywheel aside there. Man, that is a mint condition. For 1985, that's a really nice flywheel. I don't know. That's exciting to me to see a flywheel that clean. Surely it's been replaced, but it is an OEM flywheel. It's got the F55X 502. It's got the Yamaha emblem on there. I think it's got to be replaced. This thing's beautiful. You never heard me talk so highly of a flywheel before, but that thing for 1985, that is a gorgeous flywheel. Okay. Impact driver again, okay? Essential tool. I'll put a link below for this. I've never actually done that before, but I'm going to this time because it is important that you have this impact driver. 1 off. 2 off, just like that. Whammo, bammo. Thank you, mammo. All right, we got tapered screws in there, tapered bolts. You want to make sure that you keep track of those because you want to make sure you get the right ones in there. Pretty soon we're going to get down to that area I told you about that cam chain. Not yet though. Okay, we got tapered stuff here. We've got your pulsar here. We've got your generator, your spark assembly there. That's what creates the spark on your four-wheeler. You've got a gasket here. If you order a rebuild kit, a rebuild gasket kit, which I'll try to include a link below, it will come with this gasket. Replace it because you do not want water and stuff getting in through the top of this cover. Now, we've got that gasket removed off there. We've got our wires here. You're going to take and pull up. We've got a rubber grommet there. And now you can take and lift up on this. Okay, once you get these wires pulled out of there, because I don't want you to get held up by those, you can take, and what I like to do is take and turn this over slightly, grab a Phillips screwdriver, remove that small wire there. You just got to do a couple turns out, and that wire will just slide right off of that little post there. Now you're ready to take the entire thing, pull it out of there. Look at that. That thing is clean too. OEM, this guy did it right. Because he's using OEM stuff, like, this guy's my hero. People don't use OEM stuff anymore, and they're crazy because they buy this stuff from old Chinatown that is like $3 and you get like a 3-minute ride on it. So cam chain parts here. Okay, if you spin this crankshaft around, see what happens here? See, it's probably not even gonna do it because I want it to. So if I spin this thing around, oh man, is it gonna do it? This is kind of a weird situation. Not very often do I have it off and trying to get this to do it. So come on, just do it I ask. Okay, no, it's not gonna work. But anyways, you can see how it get bound up right there. So if you're taking and spinning that piston around there, that cam chain gets bound up. Let me maybe get the center here. That cam chain gets bound up. It could very, very easily break this crankcase here. Remember, that's where this sits, and I told you I'd show you where this is too. That's where this sits right here, like this. If this piece gets broken off, this complete crankshaft is junk. You can no longer use it. So you can't just take a little bit of JB weld or an impact screw and run it, or a torque screw and run it in there. It's not going to work. Okay, you need this to move like that. You need that to be free. You also need this to be there. So pull that out, pull the cam chain out, grab your pick. It's like a 3rd finger to me, or a 11th finger. Okay, now we can take and pull our shift. Ooh, not yet. Hold off on that. I'm going to clean this up because it's driving me nuts. I don't want to drop this down in the crankcase for whatever reason because we're not rebuilding this motor. Here's a sensor here. It's a 14mm sensor. Grab your socket there, or your impact, run it in there, pull that sensor out. These sensors are like every Yamaha 4-wheeler motorcycle wave runner. Everything has this sensor on there. So sensors like one of those deals where you buy one and it'll fit anything, kind of like a hat, one size fits all, but then sometimes they don't. We've got bolts all the way around here. Use our impact driver, remove these. You wouldn't actually have to do that this time, but we're going to, because we still need to take our clutch assembly apart. But you know me, I get like halfway through a video and then I've got to stop and clean everything up because I can't stand the mess. All right, now what I'm going to do, I've got these all removed, or at least all loosened up, I think, but I see that I have got a couple 10mm bolts around here. I am going to skip forward here. I'm going to clean my mess up. I'm going to start over again, and I don't know why I thought I needed to tell you that, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now we're going to take this Badger prop shaft here. We're going to pull this out. This is a bevel gear, or a middle drive gear. This is the output gear. There's about 14 different names for it. This is your drive shaft coupling here, your yoke. This is your U-joint. Typically, I've done countless videos on how to replace these U-joints, so make sure you check those in my channel there. Right now, we're actually just going to take and pull this out. We had 3 10mm bolts. That's going to allow us to remove this coupling here, this joint. You're going to be really, really careful. Anything you do, any kind of tapping you do could potentially break this aluminum cover here. So just be really careful. Just a slight tap. Now, even a plastic hammer can actually damage this thing. I don't know why they make them as cheap as they do. Like that right there just chipped a corner off it. It's just what happens. Now you have shims in here that you typically want to inspect and replace if need be, and that puts the pressure on this bevel gear here. So if you're needing a little bit of free play, you can add a couple shims there. If you've got too much free play, you can take a couple shims out, and that'll push that gear in farther, making contact with the other side of that bevel gear. Those two are typically sold together, the bevel gear in here and then the bevel gear right here. We are not able to remove that gear until we split this case. So our shift lever here, remember this is the shift lever on the left-hand side. This is the post that's holding us up here. You want to be really careful. Actually, this thing isn't even going to be able to pull out all the way until we get into that transmission a little bit more. But there is a little snap ring here, and you're not going to be able to see it. It's awful small, but it's holding this little plate thinger bobber on. And once we get that snap ring out of there, we can pull this plate out of here. And then underneath here, that's a bolt that we removed earlier. You've got a pin that runs all the way through that shaft there. Make sure you remove that, or you're not going to be able to pull this shifter out the other direction without that pin being removed. So we've got, and also got a washer on here. You've got a little, is this a seal or a bearing? I don't want to stick my head in front of the camera there, but I think it's a small little bearing there. It just kind of allows this to shift. I'm not totally sure, but we'll pull that out when we get that shift shaft pulled out the other direction. I'm now going to remove these screws here because I don't want to dump these all over the place. Now, if this motor was going right back together, what I would do is take and set these bolts in order the way that I removed them. But like I've said a handful of times already, no way this Badger's getting put back together. So I'm going to set those off to the side there. I'm going to flip this motor over, and we are now going to dig into the clutch assembly here. So we've got our, I'm going to have some oil. We're going to have our clutch cover here that we're going to remove, a handful of bolts around the outside of this. And as you guys know, I'm going to use my favorite tool here.